Protests or demonstrations have been used for centuries by aggrieved people to publicly register their views and dissent relating to a perceived grievance against a government or other entities. Now, while demonstrations are legal and seen as a fundamental human right, concerns begin to arise when it turns violent or the fundamental human right of others become threatened. This perhaps explains why the right to protest is sometimes interfered with by government or the Constitution. Some of these fundamental human rights that could be affected include freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of assembly. On this edition of Nigeria Today, we will be discussing the right to peaceful demonstrations. What are the guidelines and how far should people go in taking their protests out in public? My name is Joy Usiago. Welcome to Nigeria Today. In the studio with me to talk about peaceful protest and guidelines associated with it is the Commissioner of Police FCT Command, Bello Abubakar Sadiq. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about demonstrations. I know that the Constitution gives people the right to freedom of assembly and freedom of expression. Can these rights be interfered with in terms of demonstrations?
Yeah, of course, as you rightly said, if they turn out to be violent, or there is the possibility that they could be violent, also they can actually interfere with other people's rights. Of course, yes, that can be, look at it in that very direction. So, yes, there is, when we talk about democracy, of course, there are those rights you are just talking about. Freedom to right of association, freedom of assembly, and other things. But whatever you have to do must be done within the ambers of the law. So as long as there's no threat to violence, as long as it is going to be peaceful, then why not? People are allowed to carry out a peaceful protest.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Now, when people are planning to go on demonstration or something in that nature, what are some of the things required? Would you say that timing, location, all these are important components that those who are planning on a peaceful demonstration should take note of? And is it mandatory that you must get permission from the police?
Exactly. Timing and location are very important. The issue of taking permission from the police, yes, there is to be what we call the Public Order Act. But with the advent of democracy, a lot of civil rights groups and civil rights activists kicked against it, and in fact they even went to court because they say the Constitution guarantees citizens to freedom of association, right for assembly, and I know that the matter is in court. As such, they believe that they don't have to go through the police. But hitherto, this very time, it is always that you have to seek for police permission before you hold any public rallies or procession, particularly maybe political rallies and other things like that. So now with that, but I believe it is still necessary to inform the police so that they can also secure you, the organizers or the participant of such a protest, so that hoodlums will not come in to interfere with it, and also to protect those citizens that are taking part in that protest.
Now, are there penalties for those who go ahead to embark on this exercise without appropriate permission from the police?
Well, as I said, the matter is still in court. I don't know, it hasn't reached the apex court yet, which is the Supreme Court. I cannot say whether there are penalties, but if they turn out to be violent, for sure, there are penalties for that.
So what are the concerns of the police when we have issues like that, like when people go out for peaceful demonstration or peaceful rallies? What are your worries? What are your concerns?
Yeah, of course, if you know, the major role of the Nigeria police is to ensure there is law and order, to ensure that there is peace and security all over the country. So anything that touches on law and order. We're always very concerned about that. So we want to make sure that we are involved so that we can put our own expertise and advise the organizers of such events so that they will at least work along the same path with us so as to ensure that whatever they want to do is done in a peaceful atmosphere without disturbing the peace of the general public.
Yeah, I know that the police is really concerned about demonstrators not infringing on the rights of others. So what kind of advice do you usually give people who go on protest concerning the rights of others?
Of course, yes. If you inform the police beforehand, we'll accompany such protesters. I will make sure that they stay, if it's a two-way, if it's two-lane road, so that they stay on one side of the road without infringing on the movement of the traffic, so that members of the public can make use of the other side of the road. And then we also make sure that we protect protesters from other members that may not be in their support, because some people may not be in their support of what they are doing. And there's the tendency that they may maybe say a lot of bad things, they may insult them, and there are things that can lead to breakdown of law and order. But when we are there, we ensure that such things don't happen.
Now, talking about when you're there, I know we've had some experiences where you have the police there and these people still go ahead to become nuisance to commuters or those who are going about their normal businesses. I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you handle that? That's a huge challenge.
Yes, exactly. It is a big challenge. But that is why, if we have the information beforehand, we plan it so that we make sure that we have policemen both on all the sides covering the protesters as they are marching. But I know even in Abuja, we had that experience just, I think, about last Thursday or so. I was there myself. Some of these protesters, these IMN people, they were there, they covered the whole street along Shehu Shagari Way. They were singing, they were dancing, they were insulting people. They covered the whole side of the road. So they caused a lot of nuisance to members of the public.
So in that kind of situation, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, of course, if need be, we can effect arrest. We can arrest those people that have been rowdy, that have been riotous. It turns out to be a riot in that very aspect. You know, when 12 or more people remain riotous, and after several warnings, we have the right to arrest them. But in that case, you know, we have to put a lot of things into consideration. As long as we try to keep our calm and we don't allow it to escalate, and we talk to them, we warn them, and able to disperse peacefully, we let them go. Then we plan against the future. That is exactly what we did to these shared groups. They were very, very unruly on Thursday, and since that time we made up our mind that, okay, we'll be there before they got there, so that we'll prevent them from even assembling to plan how to go and disrupt the public peace.
Now, when you arrest miscreants or people who are culprits, how long do you keep them? Do you detain them before release? And what are the kinds of things you look out for? Do you interrogate them? What do you do generally?
Of course. Part of the process of investigation is interrogation. Especially you interrogate a suspect. And when you get them, we try to get the exhibits. That is items that are used in the commission of such crimes. Like in this aspect, these people, we found them with a lot of pebbles, with a lot of iron rods, and there's so many things like that, which they use catapult, which they use to attack the police with them. So those exhibits we try to gather, which we can present in the law court during trial.
And that brings me to the issue of having the police on location where people are having these peaceful demonstrations. You check to find out if they are armed, you know, whether small and light weapons. Do you check to find out if they're just on their own or if they're armed? Yeah,
if they are coming into a venue, ordinarily, why not we just watch and observe them? If they are coming into a venue, if we sense that there's likelihood that this crowd are going to be unruly, they are going to be violent, why not? If we have, because normally we have not only the uniformed policemen, we also have a policeman that are there in mufti. They mix up with the crowd, so you would not know, and they will pass information to us. So we'll be able to pick out those that we feel are probably armed with dangerous weapons also. We pick them aside so that we can assert them and deal with the issue.
I still want you to educate us more about the issue of location, where to hold rallies and have some of these peaceful demonstrations. Are people free to pick any venue, any location at any time to hold rallies or have these peaceful demonstrations?
Yeah, maybe it depends. Because what we understand now in Abuja, somehow they want to make the Unity Fountain to be a place whereby they come to gather, maybe they call it sit out, some of them, or they make it to be a launching pad. That is where they start their procession. They go along Shehu Shagari Way, because you know you have the National Assembly there on the other side of it. You have the Eagle Square. If you go further, on the left-hand side, you also have the gate that is leading to the villa. So some people want to use that very place so that they can be seen, so that they can be heard. They feel that is maybe the best place that they can be heard. So that is why in most cases in Abuja, a lot of people do that. But that may not be the only place. There are others that have different reasons.
Exactly.
For
I was going to ask, is that really, will that reason hold water? Will it really work to say that if you hold it around the fountain there or in Abuja, that is when you'll be heard?
Well, that is what some of...
What if you hold it in the state? Who says they cannot hear you?
They can, of course, all you need to do is publicity. You can get the media to be with you wherever you are. Is it going to be in the old parade ground or anywhere secluded? It doesn't matter. All you want is, if you want publicity, you call the media so that they'll be there to cover it and give it wider publicity. So it doesn't have to be there anyway.
Okay, so that also leads me to another issue. For those who are protesting genuinely, can't they hold some of these meetings maybe in a hall? Not necessarily having to have them outside, especially when you have a mammoth crowd disturbing traffic.
Exactly. Why not? You can have it in a hall. It can be in a stadium. It can be maybe, as I said, all parade ground or somewhere else. It doesn't have to be maybe in Shehu Shagari Way or a Unity Fountain. I don't know why a lot of people just, especially those that have grievances maybe, they think that is the right place to be, but I don't think so. What matters is for you to air your views, and then you have a good coverage, media coverage, for members of the public to see, and even the people in authority to see.
So in that kind of situation where probably they're holding it in a particular venue or hall, what would be the role of the police? Especially if you know the nature of the rally or demonstration.
Yeah, you see, we have to assess the crowd. It doesn't matter, is it students, activism, or whatever, is it another union or whatever. So we know when we assess the crowd that are organizing that rally or protest, so we know the kind of actions that we need to take, because based on the crowd, you will be able to know those that can be troublesome, those that are likely to maybe turn to be violent or so. So we get ready for that aspect. While we are there, you know, the presence of uniformed policemen is actually deterrent to people that are troublemakers or criminals. And it's also reassuring to law-abiding citizens.
Okay, let's talk about Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, which is your area of coverage now. You notice that more protesters coming into Abuja now, just like you said before, probably because it's the seat of government and they feel that this is where they will be heard and seen. How prepared are your men, especially now that we're going into an election year?
Yeah, exactly. We are very prepared, but we hope to do better. Especially maybe when you talk in terms of having the right maybe anti-riot equipments. Now we have tested them, so we know actually we need more. So this is like a testing ground. We're testing the waters, and I believe that will enable us to prepare better for maybe 2019 and so many other things to come.
All right. You're watching Nigeria Today, and we're looking at peaceful protests with the Commissioner of Police, Federal Capital Territory Command, Bello Abubakar Sadiq, live in our studio in Abuja. We will now take a break from the studio to link up with our correspondent who went out to ask Nigerians what they know and think about the guidelines for peaceful protests.
organize a peaceful protest, you meet those who are in authority, especially the police force, so that they can guide you, and also they give you the road safety, who will direct people on the road so that they can be a flow of traffic normal way. So without that, you cannot just go and do it on illegal way, and so that you will not cause problem for yourself.
I don't have idea.
Yes, sir.
You must have got clearance from Inspector General of Police, and also ensure that hoodlums don't take advantage of the movement or whatever you are pursuing.
But I don't know the particular place they apply, but I know, like in every society, every country that is civilization, they need to apply, and they need to approve it before the protest will take on.
Nothing to say.
Okay.
Nothing to say.
Yeah, I learned you have to notify the local authority in terms of the police. You have to notify them in case of, like, for example, the AUA, Adekunle Ajayi University free hike. They notify the police station, and they gave them like 2 patrol vehicles to follow them in order that it will not be hijacked by some hoodlums.
Before you embark on any protest, you are bound to write to the Commissioner of Police or DPO within the jurisdiction, sought for approval, and as a Nigerian, they are bound to grant that approval as long as it's not going to infringe the right of fellow Nigerians.
From what we have seen, we have the capacity which we can rapidly develop or feed in ourselves. If we don't import rice, we stop importing corn and other grains, Nigeria will have plenty of money to invest into developing industries, especially manufacturing, textiles and so on, and develop iron and steel, and complement the infrastructure development. So really, the opportunities are virtually limitless, and we are very, very aware of this, and we are prepared to exploit it to the fullest.
We're back in the studio live with the Commissioner of Police, FCT Command, Bello Abubakar Sadiq. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
You watched the clip there. What do you make of the comments from Nigerians about this issue?
I'm really impressed, because many of them know the reason why, know the importance of security when they are going to carry a protest. They just hit the nail on the head. They said that you need to inform the security, particularly the Nigeria police, so that they can give you security coverage, that hoodlums will not come and take over the protest, and also to guide you to the traffic issue, so that they will be there in the front and from behind to make sure that you do not constitute kind of, can I say, nuisance on the road traffic. You don't cause traffic problems, so that the protesters can move on one side, and then other members of the public can move on the other side of the road. So Nigerians are quite educated about the importance of informing the Nigeria police in particular whenever they want to hold a peaceful protest. I'm really impressed with what they say.
So in your opinion, is that enough, or do you think there's a need for the Nigerian police to also educate more people about their rights and what they need to know whenever they're going out for a protest? Is there need for advocacy?
Yeah, of course, that will be okay. If we can do that, we can, especially as we move towards 2019, and then so that all members of the public will be carried along, will be on the same page. They will know the importance of involving the police whenever they are going to have protests. It is, in fact, in their own interest and also in the interest of the public.
Now, let's talk about protesters and also those who are like commuters. When we have such protests, what should people do to protect themselves? Now, talking about the protesters, and just normal citizens going about their normal duties? Because sometimes when you have people protesting and it results into riots, you find out that innocent people are affected. So what should people do? And when I say what should people do, I'm talking about both those who are protesting and those who are going about their normal duties to protect themselves.
Okay. That depends if the protesters are in a procession. That means they are moving along the street also. Well, under normal circumstances, it depends. You just go about your lawful duty. For those that are interested, they can keep distance from it, maybe, and just watch, see what they are doing. So it's for us, the security agencies, or the police in particular, to ensure that maybe the protesters do not start things that are capable of causing breakdown of law and order. Maybe when they start singing, insulting people, calling people names, you know, such people, they may have their supporters also. So you try to always make sure that the opposing views do not come to jam together. That is why you have to designate the routes that they're supposed to follow. And you know the crowd, you know what they are protesting for. So you know the likelihood of who are going to be on the opposing side, so that they don't come together and clash. You try to avoid that as much as possible.
I'm glad that we're discussing this topic, especially now that we're looking at 2019. You can expect all sorts of things from the public as the police. So I want us to look into FCT. What are some of the guidelines you can give people, especially those who are planning to go on a protest? What are the basic things they need to know before they embark on such protests?
Well, it's quite and simple. Make sure that you know what you are protesting for. If you talk about, we're not talking about 2019, you know what we have is opposing political views. We have so many political parties. They have their own supporters. So if that different opposing views want to hold a rally, you make sure that they don't hold on the same day or at the same time. You have to separate them. That's the essence. When the police are involved, we make sure that if Party A is given the permit, you make sure that Party B does not hold their own on that very day or on that very time. So those are some of the things that we have to watch out for. The possibility of clash between two opposing people that are trying to organize a protest.
Okay, let's still look at the issue of protest and the role of the police. At what point should the riot police come in when there's a protest? When should you wade in to make sure that there's peaceful protest around the venue?
Yes, ordinarily we have what we call the conventional police. Those are the ones that dress like me, like this blue and black, or either black and black. So we are the ones that are closest to members of the public. Those are the ones you find in the police stations. Those are the ones that if people want to organize protest, they apply either to the commissioner of police, or the commissioner of police is far, and maybe to the nearest police station or the area command level. So the policemen within that level, they are to provide security for those protesters. So when the protests try to get out of hand, when there's a possibility of a riot erupting, that is when you alert our anti-riot policemen. That is the police mobile force. They are there always on the ground, so that you can bring them to assist. Actually, but the conventional policemen will try to subdue whatever problem is trying to erupt as a result of that protest. But that is if it's getting, if they have been overwhelmed, that is when you bring in the police mobile force that have been trained specifically for such issues, and when they come, they know what to do exactly.
Okay, now quickly, some people say that when police gets in, when there's maybe the protesters turn violent, that sometimes when the police steps in, they escalate the situation. What's your take on that comment?
I don't think about escalate. Well, yes, for troublemakers, when they see police, sometimes, yes, some of them, they just their anger grows higher. Those that really want to cause problem and they want to see problem, you know, but police are there to to actually ensure that there is peace and security to maintain law and order. But for those that are determined to cause problem, they don't want to see police around because they know the police will try to make sure that there is peace and security. And normally, when a situation becomes riotous, people are warned beforehand not to continue with what they're doing or not to engage in what they are doing. If they desist or they refuse to abide by such warnings, that is when certain measures will be taken. Maybe if there's the need to use tear gas, if there's the need to use people with buttons, and even if there's the need to use firearms.
But certainly not shoot outside.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Bello Abubakar Sadiq, Commissioner of Police, FCT Command, for joining us on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
That's all time will allow us on Nigeria Today. We hope our discussion was informative. And from us in the studio, it's bye for now.